I think I'm just going to go to New York and see John Lennon.
I think I don't need a clinical psychologist. I do need to kill, though.
Right. So he went to New York on December 6, 1980. At one point, he considered ending his life by jumping off the Statue of Liberty. You should have just done that, bud.
Right. Spare the other stuff. December 7th, Chapman accosted singer James Taylor at the 72nd Street subway station. Here's your sign. According to Taylor, he says, quote unquote, the guy had sort of pinned me to the wall and was glistening with maniacal sweat and talking some freak speak about what he was going to do and his stuff with how John was interested and he was going to get in touch with John Lennon.
Uh-oh.
Well, red flag.
All right.
He also reportedly offered cocaine to a taxi driver.
Hey, fantastic.
He's a taxi driver. Hell yeah.
Taxi driver's like, hell yeah, bud. He's like, this shit's garbage. Try this.
Yeah. That night, Chapman and his wife talked on the phone about getting help with his problems by first
on the phone
working with his relationship with God. Well, yeah, on the phone. She was in Hawaii and he's in New York.
Sad.
Where's he getting this money?
Right.
From what I could tell, the dude's unemployed, jumping from job to job, but he's got time to go around the world.
She's a nurse, so she's probably making decent money.
He's got time to fly to New York and back and Atlanta and go here and there.
But his mom was a nurse. And what did she do?
His wife was studied nursery too, I believe.
Chapman waited for Lennon.
No, his wife is the travel agent lady.
Right. Chapman waited for Lennon outside Dakota early the next morning.
Ooh-wee, you guys heard that?
Spent most of the day near the entrance of the Dakota.
Yep.
Talking to fans and to the doorman.
Which is crazy because literally outside of John Lennon's residence.
I mean, it was normal for everybody to do that. During that morning, Chapman was distracted and missed seeing Lennon step out of a cab and enter the Dakota.
Oh, he must have been
he was pissed. Later that morning, Chapman met Lennon's family nanny, Helen Seaman, who was returning from a walk with Lennon's 5-year-old son, Sean. Oh, man, this guy could have done some major damage there.
Right.
Chapman reached out in front of the housekeeper to shake Sean's hand and said that he was a beautiful boy, quoting Lennon's song, "Beautiful boy, darling boy."
Darling boy.
That's some weird. But the nanny's like, damn, dude.
Creeper.
I don't know. I was probably seeing that shit all a lot.
That's true, too, yeah. Around 5 p.m., Lennon and Ono, delayed by a late limousine, shared with the RKO radio crew, left their apartment to mix the song Walking on Thin Ice.
Hey.
Which was an Ono song featuring Lennon on lead guitar. They were going to the record plant. As they left the building, Chapman came up and asked for Lennon's autograph, which fans did all the time, so he was like, all right. He wanted on a copy of his album Double Fantasy.
Fantastic.
Lennon liked to give autographs or pictures, especially to those who had been waiting for long periods of time to meet him. Later, Chapman said, he was very, very kind to me. Ironically, very kind and was very patient with me.
Fantastic.
He said the limo was waiting, and he took his time with me, and he got the pen going, and he signed my album. He asked me if I needed anything else. I said, no, sir. And he walked away, very cordial and a decent man.
Wow.
And I still decided to gun him down.
Wow, ain't that crazy?
Jeez. Paul Gorish, one of the two, was an amateur photographer and Lennon fan. He took a photo of Lennon signing Chapman's elbow.
Oh, jeez.
Signed his elbow in his album. His album, which you can see the famous photo everywhere.
All right. The Lennon spent a few hours at record plant before returning to Dakota around 10:50 p.m.
10:50.
Lennon wanted to be home in time to say goodnight to his son before going to the Stage Deli restaurant with Ono.
See, kids ruin everything.
All right. All right. Didn't have that damn boy. He could have just went to the damn restaurant. The Lennons got out of the limousine on 72nd Street instead of driving into the more secured courtyard of the Dakota.
Well, it's a mistake.
The Lennons passed Chapman and walked toward the archway entrance of the building. Ono passed by. Chapman nodded at her. As Lennon passed by, he glanced briefly at Chapman, appearing to recognize him from earlier.
He's like, hey, you're the bloke that I signed the record for, eh?
You still here, buddy?
Hey, fucking love my fans, I do. Swear, I'll be back, mate. I just gotta go say goodbye to my son.
I'll get you something from the deli. You gonna be here later?
Right. Well, that never happened because seconds later, that could have happened, but seconds later, Chapman drew his gun, hidden in his coat pocket, aimed at the center of Lennon's back, and rapidly fired 5 hollow point bullets from a distance about 9 or 10 feet.
Wow.
Based on statements made that night by New York City Police Department Chief of Detectives James Sullivan, many reports at the time claimed that before firing, Chapman called out, "Mr. Lennon," and dropped into a combat stance. So he's getting that aimed down. Later court hearings and witness interviews did not include either Mr. Lennon or the combat stance description.
Okay.
Chapman said that he does not remember calling out to Lennon before he fired and that Lennon did not turn around.
Wow.
He claimed afterwards in 1992 to have taken a combat stance, but I think he just did that for things.
Right.
That dude just literally fired like
That's
a coward little
ridiculous.
bitch that he is.
Wow. One bullet missed Lennon, hit a window of the Dakota. According to autopsy report, 2 bullets entered the left side of Lennon's back, traveling through the left side of his chest and his left lung, with one exiting from the body and one lodged in his neck. 2 more bullets hit Lennon in his left shoulder. Lennon, bleeding profusely from external wounds and from his mouth, staggered up 5 steps to the security reception area where he said, "I'm shot. I'm shot." He then fell to the floor, scattering cassettes that he was carrying. Poor
Dude
guy.
exited through the front of him.
Yeah.
That's how close he was shot, and those bullets, holy shit. Jose Perdomo, the doorman, shook the gun out of Chapman's hand and kicked it across the pavement. Concierge worker Jay Hastings first started to make a tourniquet, but after ripping open Lennon's blood-stained shirt and realizing the severity of the wounds, he covered Lennon's chest with his uniform jacket, removed his blood-covered glasses, and called the police. Chapman removed his coat and hat to show he was not carrying any concealed weapons and remained standing on West 72nd Street waiting for police. Underneath his coat, he wore a promotional T-shirt for Todd Rundgren's album Hermit of Mink Hollow.
Oh, jeez.
Sucks to be Todd Rundgren.
Dang, dude. He could have, that Perdomo guy could have at least tried to stop the bleeding.
No, you probably seen, dude. He was probably
Yeah.
said he was bleeding profusely.
Yeah, he had a collapsed lung. The
doesn't
only
matter.
one that was that, what could have been, he could have lived.
Well, it's false.
A couple
'Cause
shoulders.
I know what's about to be said, and trust me.
No. Perdomo shouted at Chapman, "Do you know what you just did?" Which Chapman calmly replied, "I just shot John Lennon." Officer Stephen Spyro
What a
and Peter
bitch. How did nobody punch him in the face?
Right. Officer Stephen Spyro and Peter Cullen were the first cops to arrive at the scene. They were at 72nd Street and Broadway when they heard a report of shots fired at the Dakota. They're like, "Oh no, not John."
Maybe, right?
The officers arrived around 2 minutes later and found Chapman standing very calmly on West 72nd Street, reading a paperback copy of J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the
Dude's so
Rye.
fucked up in, sorry my language, fucked up in the head that he's just sitting there reading the damn book that inspired him to do this.
They immediately put Chapman in handcuffs, placed him in the back of the seat of their squad car. Chapman made no attempt to flee or resist arrest. Colin said of Chapman, "He apologized to us for ruining our night." I turned around and I said to him, "You got to be fucking kidding me. You're worried about our night? Do you know what you just did to your life?"
I don't think he cares.
Well, then he said he read him his rights more than once.
Officer Herb Frohenberger and his partner Tony Palma were the second team arriving on the crime scene. They found Lennon laying face down on the floor of the reception area, blood pouring from his mouth, pouring, and his clothing already soaked with it, with Hastings attending to him. Officers James Moran, and Bill Gamble then arrived on the scene, and Frohenberger put Lennon in their car.
See, why didn't the Pro Bono guy, whatever his name was, drive him to the damn hospital?
Pro bono.
What is his name? Porbono? Or what the hell is that guy's name? Porbono? What's his name?
Perdomo.
Perdomo.
He was a bellhopper.
Yeah, he
he didn't
could've
have a
put-
car.
Sure, he had a car.
Oh,
Think he
what?
walked to work?
Yeah, it's New York, yes.
Well, he probably had a car.
100% no for a fact he walked to work, probably.
Most likely. Or took
Right.
a bus.
No fucking cars.
Somebody had a car.
Nobody had a car. Didn't matter. They arrived 2 minutes later. Or the first officers, 90 seconds or whatever that was.
Instead of arresting the guy, they should have just threw Lennon in the back of the cop car.
Well, James Moran and Bill Gamble did just that, concluding his condition was too serious to wait for an ambulance to arrive. Moran and Gamble then drove Lennon to Roosevelt Hospital on West 59th, followed by Frohenberger and Palma, who drove Ono to the hospital. According to Gamble, in the car, Moran asked, "Are you John Lennon? Or do you know who you are?" To which Lennon nodded, but could only manage to make a moaning and gurgling sound.
Yeah, because his lungs were full of blood.
And he lost consciousness shortly after.
Oh, jeez.
Done by then, dude. Done.
Oh.
Done.
Stephen Lynn, head of the emergency department at Roosevelt Hospital, says, "If John Lennon had been shot this way in the middle of the operating room with a whole team of surgeons ready to work on him, he still would not have survived his injuries."
It was done. We're about to hear some pretty fucked up.
At that point in time in the world.
Even now, dude, I think. Or what we're about to hear, dude, yeah, he got ripped apart.
A few minutes before 11 p.m., Morin arrived at Roosevelt Hospital with Lennon in his squad car.
Wonder if that squad car's.
I bet.
Did you think they
had
cleaned it or put it back in action? Or
I'm sure they did. Morin was carrying Lennon on his back and onto a gurney, demanding a doctor for multiple gunshot wound victim. It's freaking John Lennon, guys.
Right.
When Lennon was brought in, he was not breathing and had no pulse.
Jeez.
3 doctors, a nurse, and 2 or 3 other medical attendants worked on Lennon for 10 to 20 minutes and attempted to resuscitate him. As a last resort, the doctors cut open Lennon's chest and attempted manual heart massage to restore circulation, but they quickly discovered that the damage to the blood vessels above and around Lennon's heart from the multiple bullet wounds was too much.
Too much. Yep, because 3 of the 4 bullets that hit Lennon's back passed completely through his body and out of his chest. Oh, jeez, dude. While the 4th lodged itself in his aorta beside his heart. One of the accident bullets from his chest hit and became lodged in his upper left arm. Several of the wounds could have been fatal by themselves because each bullet had ruptured vital arteries around the heart. Yeah, dude, they're hollow points.
Right.
Lennon was shot 4 times at close range with hollow point bullets, and his affected organs, particularly his left lung and major blood vessels above his heart, were virtually destroyed upon impact. It just blew him. There was no saving him. There's no way you can fix this. I mean, oh, jeez.
Right.
According to his death certificate, Lennon was pronounced dead on arrival at 11:15 p.m., but the time of 11:07 has also been reported, so it's between there, I guess. Witnesses noted that the Beatles song All My Lovin' came over the hospital sound system at the moment Lennon was pronounced dead.
Oh, wouldn't that be crazy?
Right.
I mean, not really, though.
It was pretty popular back then. I mean, it's still the 80s. All My Lovin'?
Still, could have been any
I would expect it to Get Back or something like that. Not All My Lovin'.
Right.
Lennon's body was then taken to the city morgue at 521st Avenue for an autopsy.
And that was quick.
Yeah.
The
I don't know why you have to have an autopsy, but...
Right. The official cause of death was reported on his death certificate as hypovolemic shock.
Hypovolemic.
Right. Okay. Caused by loss of more than 80% of blood volume due to multiple through and through gunshot wounds to the left shoulder and left chest, resulting in damage to the left lung.
Right. I mean, when you got a bullet that's lodged in you, I think you're only bleeding from one hole. But when you got one that go through, you're kind of screwed there.
Also to the left subclavian artery and both the aorta and aortic arc.
Right.
Heart trauma, guys.
Yeah.
According to the report, even with prompt medical treatment, no person could have survived this type of injury for more than a few minutes, with multiple bullet wounds affecting all the major arteries and veins around the heart.
Which obviously happened because he didn't survive more than a few minutes.
Right.
Ono asked the hospital not to report to the media that her husband was dead until she informed their 5-year-old son, who was at home. She said he was probably up watching TV and that she did not want him to learn of his father's death from a TV announcement. Understandable. But you already know how much scumbags the media are.
Right.
Scumbags in the media and scumbags in the FBI go hand in hand in our little show that we do here. Because, however, news producer Alan J. Weiss of WABC TV happened to be waiting for treatment in the Roosevelt Hospital after being injured in a motorcycle crash.
Jeez,
police officers wheeled Lennon into the same room as Weiss and mentioned what happened. Weiss then called a station and relayed the information, and you know what's happening from there.